In an unexpected twist that has captured the attention of not only North America but the globe, Canada has proposed a 100% tariff on Tesla, a flagship of American electric cars. This move is a direct counter to Trump's tariffs and could lead to a seismic shift in the North American automotive industry. Let's dive into the numbers and potential ramifications of this developing trade war. It seems Canada is opening its doors to European Union electric cars, delivering a significant blow to the U.S. auto industry. For years, Canada and the United States have nurtured a robust trade relationship, annually exchanging $50 billion in cars and metals, including aluminum and steel. However, under Donald Trump's protectionist trade policies, Canada is now in a precarious situation. Recently, a Canadian politician suggested imposing a 100% tariff on Tesla cars, a move that could not only shake the North American auto industry, but also ripple across the global market. So, why target Tesla? As one of the leading electric car brands in the U.S., Tesla represents innovation in the global automotive industry. It currently commands about 70% of the electric vehicle market in the U.S. Should Canada impose a 100% tariff on Tesla, the price of each car could rise by $5,000 or more. Such steep prices would likely slash Tesla's sales in Canada, as consumers would balk at paying more, reducing demand and diminishing Tesla's competitiveness against other brands. This could trigger a series of adverse effects not only for Tesla, but also for its investors, who would likely see a decline in stock value as Tesla's revenue and profits take a hit. Moreover, this tariff could complicate Tesla's expansion and investment strategies in North America, sparking concern within the investment community and undermining confidence in Tesla's long-term sustainability and in the electric vehicle industry at large. This trade war could disrupt the Canadian auto market and extend its reach globally. The rapidly growing electric vehicle industry may experience a slowdown as automakers and component manufacturers face rising production and consumption costs. This could stymie the growth of electric vehicles and delay green energy transition plans, directly impacting global efforts to reduce emissions and protect the environment. In the eye of the storm, we're left pondering whether a 100% tariff on Tesla could indeed have a widespread impact on the U.S. auto industry. The answer is unequivocally yes. The consequences will not stop at Tesla. They will ripple throughout the North American economy. Let's delve deeper into the ramifications of this trade war. Tesla is not just an American brand, but a symbol of the global electric vehicle revolution. It plans to sell over 1 million cars globally this year, with over 50,000 units sold annually in Canada. If Canada enacts a 100% tariff on these vehicles, the price of Tesla cars in Canada could soar by 50%. A Tesla Model 3, currently priced at around $40,000, could cost consumers up to $80,000 with the 100% tariff, a price point far out of reach for most. However, the impact won't stop at Tesla. The North American auto industry, including giants like General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler, would face significant disruptions. With over 2 million cars produced annually in Canada and exported to the U.S., a tariff crisis could shut down factories, pushing hundreds of thousands of workers out of jobs. The Canadian auto industry is valued at approximately $50 billion annually, and if this trade war remains unresolved, it will inflict significant damage not only on Canada, but on the entire North American economy. Canada's surprising response to Trump's trade policy raises the question, why didn't the U.S. anticipate this? When one of the United States' biggest trade partners decides to retaliate, the Trump administration was caught off guard. U.S.-Canada trade is valued at over $800 billion annually, and any disruption could send shockwaves through the economy. But instead of retreating, Canada retaliated forcefully, imposing retaliatory tariffs, expanding new markets, and bolstering ties with the European Union to protect its economic interests. So what transpired? Why did Canada's response catch the U.S. by surprise? And how will this affect the global economy? Trump's policies ignited a trade war with Canada. Over the past month, the Trump administration has ramped up aggressive trade policies, slapping heavy tariffs on imports from Canada and the European Union. The goal? To protect American industries. But instead, this move provoked a fierce backlash from America's closest economic allies. Experts have cautioned that these policies could disrupt vital supply chains, drive up fuel and consumer prices, and harm not only Canada, but American businesses and consumers as well. You may already be feeling the effects: higher fuel prices, increased production costs, and a growing risk of job losses. What's even more concerning is that this could trigger a dangerous cycle of economic retaliation among major economies. But why did the Trump administration gamble on such a move, and did it underestimate Canada's response? Canada wasn't about to sit idly by. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau swiftly responded, calling the U.S. tariffs completely unjustified and warning that they could harm both nations. Canada promptly imposed retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods of equal value, targeting steel, aluminum, and key agricultural products like beef, dairy, and fresh produce. But that was just the beginning. Canada aggressively moved to diversify its trade partnerships, signing new agreements with Europe and Asian nations, such as Indonesia and Ecuador, to lessen its dependence on the U.S. market. This strategy not only strengthens Canada's economy, but also places the U.S. in a challenging position, losing a key trade partner right at its doorstep. Canada wasn't stopping there. It had another significant move in store, a long-term strategy that could challenge America's dominance in critical industries. Canada and the EU have formed a strategic minerals alliance, a challenge to China's market dominance. Beyond trade, Canada and the EU have teamed up in a crucial sector, securing the supply chain for strategic minerals like lithium, cobalt, and nickel, essential materials for electric vehicle batteries, renewable energy, and high-tech industries. Currently, China dominates this market, controlling over 90% of the global supply. However, Canada and the EU are constructing an independent supply chain to reduce reliance on Beijing. This move not only bolsters economic security, but also serves as a warning to the U.S. Without a smart trade strategy, Washington could find itself lagging behind in the race for the future energy industry. Amid concerns over Trump's foreign policy, Europe is pushing for military independence. Trade isn't the only concern. European leaders are increasingly wary of Donald Trump's unpredictable foreign policies. After the U.S. held secret negotiations with Russia over Ukraine without involving European allies, many nations felt sidelined. This has prompted the EU to strengthen its independent defense strategy, reducing reliance on NATO, which is led by the U.S. France, has organized high-level meetings to expand military cooperation, strengthen defense supply chains, and increase defense spending. Europe and Canada are now sculpting a new strategic landscape, one that no longer hinges on Washington's decisions. The trade standoff between the U.S. and Canada has now extended beyond typical political issues. Canada's retaliatory actions against U.S. tariffs are not only immediately impacting the U.S. farming sector, but could also signal the onset of a broader crisis in global agriculture. The situation escalated when the U.S. imposed a 25% tariff on various Canadian goods, including agricultural products such as grains, meat, and dairy. Canada didn't hesitate in its response, immediately imposing tariffs on U.S. goods like corn, soybeans, and beef. This has not only increased export costs for U.S. farmers, but also forced them to grapple with immense difficulties in finding alternative markets. U.S. dairy farmers, who have long depended on Canada as a crucial trading partner, are now suffering significant losses. The new tariffs have rendered dairy exports to Canada prohibitively expensive, reducing demand and driving prices down. Many U.S. dairy farms are facing severe financial crises. For corn and soybean farmers, Canada has been one of the largest export markets. However, retaliatory tariffs have caused prices to plummet, leaving farmers with unsold crops. This situation has led to massive financial losses for these farmers. Cattle and pig farmers are also feeling the sting. The cost of exporting meat to Canada has skyrocketed, driving down demand. With prices in free fall and export costs rising, many livestock producers are scrambling to find new markets. This crisis is not just about immediate losses for farmers. It will have far-reaching consequences for the economy at local, national, and even global levels. The standoff between the U.S. and Canada could create a significant gap in the global agricultural market, which countries like China, Mexico, and the EU may seize to increase exports where the U.S. and Canada are losing ground. In the face of market uncertainty, many farmers are turning to precision agriculture to improve efficiency. However, these technologies require significant investment, and the financial pressure from tariffs is making it more difficult for farmers to invest. In the long run, this trade dispute could push for a restructuring of agricultural practices in both the U.S. and Canada. Many small, family-owned farms may be forced to sell to larger corporate farms, accelerating farm consolidation. Beyond financial hardships, farmers are facing significant emotional distress. With mounting financial pressures, the mental health of farmers is becoming an increasingly critical issue. This trade war between the U.S. and Canada may be a major setback for the U.S. farming industry, but it could also represent a turning point in global agricultural trade. While the immediate impacts are severe, there are also potential opportunities for farmers and countries to adapt to new markets and find innovative solutions. The future of agriculture will depend on how these sectors respond to the rapidly changing trade landscape. Did you know the U.S. is heavily reliant on a massive source of energy from Canada? What would happen if that energy door were suddenly closed? Imagine skyrocketing oil prices, factory shutdowns, and people grappling with sky-high energy bills. This isn't some distant scenario, but a possibility if Canada decides to cut off its energy supplies to the U.S. Let's explore the potential devastating impacts. The U.S. is the world's largest economy, and one of the key factors stabilizing it is its reliance on energy imports from Canada. From oil and natural gas to hydroelectric power and uranium, Canada plays an essential role in supplying energy to the U.S. Let's take a closer look at how the U.S. depends on Canada and why this relationship is so crucial. Canada is the largest oil supplier to the U.S., accounting for about 60% of U.S. oil imports. The U.S. also relies on Canadian natural gas to heat northern regions and power its industries. This stable supply is crucial for maintaining the U.S. economy, especially during the cold winter months. Canada also provides hydroelectric power to states like New York and Vermont. Hydropower from areas like Quebec not only supplies cheap electricity, but also plays a major role in the U.S.'s renewable energy strategy. If this hydroelectric supply were interrupted, these areas could face an energy crisis. Additionally, Canada is one of the largest suppliers of uranium to the U.S., essential for nuclear power plants. If this supply were interrupted, the impact could be severe. So what would happen if Canada really decided to cut off this vital energy supply? First, the disruption of oil and gas from Canada would cause energy prices in the U.S. to soar, pushing up the cost of living and production, especially during winter when states rely on natural gas for heating and electricity generation. Next, energy-intensive industries like steel and chemical production would face a crisis. High energy prices would force factories to reduce output or even shut down, impacting the economy. Additionally, the U.S. would struggle to find stable and affordable energy sources, leading to shortages and putting pressure on industries. Canada may redirect its energy exports to other markets like China or Europe, but this comes with significant infrastructure and cost challenges, making a quick transition impossible. The energy relationship between the U.S. and Canada is truly crucial, and any disruption could lead to major consequences. From rising energy prices to industrial crises and supply shortages, this is an issue both countries need to carefully consider, as it could have far-reaching effects on the economy and regional stability. While the U.S. is pushing hard to impose tariffs to protect its economy, its close allies are slowly backing away from their dependency on America. That's right, Canada, America's closest neighbor, is making bold moves, cutting back on its reliance on the U.S. and expanding its global partnerships. Could this be a sign of a major shift in the global economy? Canada is creating a trade revolution. What will the U.S. lose? First, let's examine the recent trip by Canada's Minister of Trade, Mary Ong, to Europe. She held important meetings with EU officials to strengthen the trade relationship between Canada and the European Union. As trade tensions between the U.S. and its allies continue to rise, this is not just Canada seeking new trade partners, but a strategy to reduce its dependence on the U.S. With the Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, CETA, trade between Canada and the EU surged to a record high of $100 billion in 2021. This demonstrates that Canada is making significant progress in building an independent and sustainable trade relationship. But Canada isn't stopping at increasing trade with the EU. It is implementing an even bolder strategy by shifting its energy exports to Asia. For decades, nearly 97% of Canada's oil has been exported to the U.S. However, with new strategic agreements signed with Japan and China, Canada is changing this picture. This means Canada is not only minimizing risks from U.S. tariff policies, but also enhancing its position as a reliable energy supplier to the global market. The most important question here is America losing its dominant position in the global trade game? America's protectionist policies, with tariffs imposed on trade partners, are not only pushing allied nations to seek new relationships, but also forcing the U.S. to face a significant shift. The U.S. is confronting a powerful change in the global supply chain as allied nations no longer rely as heavily on America. So can the U.S. maintain its leadership in global trade, or will it face economic isolation? As allied nations seek new trade partners, the U.S. is facing the risk of economic isolation in the global market. Countries like Canada, the EU, and various Asian nations are not only reducing their reliance on the U.S., but are also strengthening their independent trade relationships. The tariffs imposed by the U.S. are leading to an unintended consequence, shrinking market share for American businesses in international markets, while encouraging other countries to collaborate more closely. The U.S. is slowly losing the economic influence it once had. Canada is not just diversifying its export markets, it is also focusing on sustainable development strategies. With mining projects supporting the green industry, Canada is building a sustainable and ethical growth strategy, creating huge opportunities in future industries like renewable energy and green technology. Canada is moving forward strong with its diversification and sustainability strategy, while the U.S. could face significant challenges if it continues down the protectionist path. What do you think about Canada's transformation? Can the U.S. adapt to these changes? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. We look forward to hearing from you. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the shifting dynamics of international trade, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up. Your support helps us bring you more insightful content. So what's your take on the future of global trade? Share your thoughts. Certainly. Here is the continuation of the text. While Canada is making significant strides in redefining its trade relations and energy partnerships, it's important to consider the broader implications for both Canada and the U.S., and indeed the global economy. The changing dynamics bring with them a mix of challenges and opportunities that can reshape the way countries interact on economic fronts. As Canada continues to diversify its trade and energy export destinations, it strengthens its global standing and reduces vulnerability to any single market's fluctuations. This diversification strategy not only shields Canada from the risks associated with U.S. protectionist measures, but also positions it as a pivotal player in the global market, particularly in terms of energy supplies and green technology. The U.S., on the other hand, faces a complex and evolving landscape. While the intention behind protectionist tariffs may be to safeguard domestic industries, the broader consequence appears to be a gradual erosion of the U.S.'s central role in global trade networks. As allies like Canada shift focus to other markets, the U.S. might find itself grappling with an increasingly competitive international environment. This situation begs the question of whether the U.S. will adjust its trade policies to foster stronger alliances or continue on a path that could potentially lead to economic isolation. In the realm of agriculture, the ongoing trade tensions between the U.S. and Canada highlight the fragility of international supply chains. As tariffs disrupt traditional trade routes, farmers on both sides of the border are forced to adapt to new market realities. For U.S. farmers, the challenge is not just about finding new buyers, but also about innovating to increase efficiency and reduce costs. Precision agriculture and sustainable farming practices could offer a path forward, but they require investment and support, both of which are strained under current economic pressures. In Canada, the move to retaliate against U.S. tariffs underscores a broader strategy of resilience and adaptation. By forging new agreements and exploring alternative markets, Canadian agriculture is positioning itself to weather the uncertainties of global trade. This proactive approach could serve as a model for other nations facing similar challenges. The energy relationship between the U.S. and Canada is another area where careful consideration is warranted. The interdependence in this sector has long been a stabilizing factor for both economies. However, as Canada explores new energy export destinations, the U.S. must assess its energy security strategies. Diversifying energy sources and investing in renewable energy technologies could mitigate potential disruptions and foster a more sustainable energy future. As the global economy continues to evolve, the interplay between protectionism and international cooperation will play a crucial role in shaping the future. Countries that can adapt to new realities, embrace innovation, and build resilient economic frameworks are likely to thrive. For the U.S., this might mean reevaluating its trade policies and seeking collaborative solutions that benefit both domestic industries and international partners. For viewers who have been following these developments, your insights and opinions are invaluable. How do you see these changes impacting the global economy? What strategies should countries pursue to ensure sustainable growth in an interconnected world? We invite you to share your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you find these discussions enlightening, consider subscribing to our channel for more in-depth analyses and updates on global economic trends. Your engagement helps us continue to provide high-quality content. Thanks for being a part of this conversation, and we look forward to hearing from you. Certainly, here is the continuation of the text. As we delve deeper into the intricate web of international trade and economic strategies, it's clear that the actions taken by Canada and the U.S. are not occurring in isolation. They are part of a larger global shift that sees countries reassessing their economic alliances and resource dependencies. The backdrop of this shift is a world increasingly defined by technological advancement, climate change, and geopolitical tensions, all of which influence how nations navigate their economic futures. Canada's strategic pivot towards the European Union and Asia reflects a keen awareness of these global currents. By expanding its trade agreements and energy exports beyond North America, Canada is not only hedging against the unpredictability of U.S. trade policies, but also positioning itself as a versatile and reliable partner on the world stage. This approach underscores a forward-thinking mentality that prioritizes long-term stability and growth over short-term gains. In contrast, the U.S.'s current trajectory raises questions about its future role in the global economy. The reliance on tariffs as a means of economic protection may offer immediate relief to certain domestic industries, yet it simultaneously risks alienating key allies and partners. This strategy could lead to a reconfiguration of global supply chains, where countries like Canada, the EU, and others forge stronger intra-regional ties, potentially sidelining the U.S. in critical trade networks. The shifting landscape has significant implications for industries across the board. In the automotive sector, for example, the proposed Canadian tariffs on Tesla highlight the vulnerabilities inherent in relying on a single market or production base. For Tesla and other automakers, diversifying manufacturing locations and supply chains could mitigate the impact of such trade barriers and ensure continued competitiveness in a global market increasingly driven by consumer demand for sustainable and innovative products. Meanwhile, the agriculture sector is witnessing a transformation driven by necessity. As traditional export routes face disruptions, farmers are increasingly turning to technology to enhance productivity and resilience. The adoption of precision agriculture, which leverages data and analytics to optimize farming practices, is gaining traction as a means to not only survive, but thrive in a challenging economic environment. However, this transition requires investment and support, highlighting the need for policies that facilitate access to technology and resources for farmers. The energy sector, too, stands at a crossroads. The interdependence between the U.S. and Canada in this domain has been a cornerstone of their economic relationship. As Canada seeks to diversify its energy exports, the U.S. must reconsider its energy strategy, focusing on sustainability and diversification. Investing in renewable energy sources and infrastructure could reduce reliance on imports and enhance energy security, aligning with global trends towards cleaner and more sustainable energy solutions. As we witness these developments unfold, it is imperative to consider the broader implications for global trade and cooperation. The choices made by countries today will shape the economic landscape for years to come. Nations that prioritize adaptability, cooperation, and innovation are likely to emerge as leaders in the new global order. The challenge lies in balancing national interests with the benefits of international collaboration, a task that requires nuanced policymaking and a willingness to engage constructively with global partners. For our audience, these topics are not just abstract concepts, but tangible issues that affect businesses, consumers, and communities worldwide. We encourage you to reflect on these changes and consider how they might impact you personally or professionally. What are your thoughts on the direction of global trade and the strategies countries should adopt to navigate these turbulent times? We invite you to share your perspectives in the comments section below. And if you're interested in staying informed about these dynamic economic shifts, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. By doing so, you'll be joining a community of engaged viewers who are keen to explore and understand the complexities of the global economy. Your participation is crucial to fostering a rich dialogue, and we look forward to hearing your insights. Thank you for tuning in, and let's continue the conversation.